When you cross 55, people often whisper the same sentence. Well, that's just aging. Your legs feel weaker, your steps less steady, and suddenly balance becomes something you think about instead of something you trust. But here's the truth. What feels like decline is often your body's way of asking for better support, not a life sentence. Muscles don't simply fade, nerves don't simply fail, and balance doesn't just vanish with the years. They respond, they adapt, they can be rebuilt. And the tools to do that aren't exotic or expensive. They're sitting right in front of you, small everyday foods that carry extraordinary power. In fact, three simple nuts, yes, nuts you can find in any grocery aisle, contain the building blocks your muscles, nerves, and brain are craving. Used wisely, they can help reverse weakness, stabilize your balance, and bring back the confidence to move through life with strength instead of fear. Today I'm going to take you through these three nuts, not just naming them, but explaining exactly why they work, how to use them, and how tiny daily choices can transform the way your body feels and functions. Because aging is not about decline, it's about giving your body the right signals, the right nutrients, and the right habits to keep moving forward. So let's start where strength begins, understanding the real problem and how we can improve it. As we age, one of the most common experiences people describe is that sense of weakness in the legs, that loss of steadiness when walking, or that uncomfortable feeling that balance isn't what it used to be. Many assume this is simply an unavoidable part of aging, but that's not entirely true. What science shows us is that much of this weakness and instability stems from specific physiological changes, changes that are heavily influenced by the way we fuel our bodies and the way we move them each day. The encouraging reality is that weakness and loss of balance are not permanent sentences, they are signals. They are the body's way of asking for better inputs, and when those inputs are supplied through nutrition, minerals, and activity, the body can respond at virtually any age. One of the central players in this process is muscle. Skeletal muscle is not just about strength or appearance, it is the tissue that helps us stand upright, climb stairs, stabilize joints, and even regulate blood sugar. As we pass midlife, muscle becomes less responsive to the same small amounts of protein that kept it healthy when we were younger. This phenomenon is called anabolic resistance. In practical terms, it means that a light snack of protein may no longer be enough to trigger the muscle repair and rebuilding process. Instead, older adults need to ensure that each meal contains a substantial and concentrated dose of protein, typically around 25 to 30 grams, to properly stimulate muscle protein synthesis. When we fail to meet that threshold, the body cannot fully repair and replace the fibers lost through daily wear, and over time, this contributes to weakness and frailty. Balance is another critical piece of the picture. It relies on a three-way conversation between the eyes, the inner ear, and the nervous system. Muscles are the executors of this balance system, carrying out the adjustments needed to keep us upright. But when muscle mass and strength diminish, those adjustments become slower and less reliable. Suddenly, uneven ground or climbing stairs becomes risky, and the fear of falling creeps in. That fear itself leads many to reduce their activity further, which ironically accelerates the loss of strength and balance, a cycle that can be broken only by deliberate nutritional support and gentle, consistent training. Minerals like magnesium and potassium, as well as vitamins such as vitamin D and E, are vital to this process. They act like tiny sparks and shields inside muscle and nerve cells, ensuring that electrical signals travel smoothly and that tissues recover from stress without excessive damage. When intake of these nutrients is low, muscles cramp more easily, nerves fire less efficiently, and fatigue sets in earlier. This is why foods rich in these minerals, combined with adequate protein, are so powerful in restoring stability and strength. It isn't about a single supplement or magic pill, It's about consistently giving your body the fuel it was designed to run on. And it's not only about food, even small amounts of resistance training or balance-focused exercises, when paired with proper nutrition, multiply the effects. The body is incredibly adaptive, even in our 50s, 60s, and beyond. Research consistently shows that older adults who reach their protein targets and engage in regular, modest training can rebuild significant amounts of muscle, improve balance scores, and cut their risk of falls dramatically. This means the power to counter weakness and unsteadiness is not locked away in youth. It's accessible right now through daily choices that provide the raw materials for strength and the stimulus to use them. Almonds may look small and simple, but inside that little shell is a package of nutrients that directly support the very systems we depend on for strength and steadiness. One of the key minerals almonds provide is magnesium, and magnesium is often called the body's spark plug. Every time a muscle fiber contracts, every time a nerve sends an electrical signal, magnesium is involved in making that process smooth and efficient. If levels are low, the signals don't travel as cleanly, and what you might notice is cramping, twitching, or just a sense that your muscles fatigue earlier than they should. This is why magnesium is considered essential for both muscular performance and recovery. Almonds deliver this in a highly bioavailable form, and when eaten consistently, they help fill in a nutritional gap that many adults over 55 have without even realizing it. Alongside magnesium, almonds are one of the richest natural sources of vitamin E, a fat-soluble antioxidant that protects cell membranes from oxidative damage. Think about what happens during exercise, even simple walking or climbing stairs. Muscle fibers contract, oxygen is burned, and reactive molecules called free radicals are produced. These can damage the delicate membranes of muscle and nerve cells if not controlled. Vitamin E acts like a shield, preventing this damage and allowing tissues to recover more efficiently after activity. For older adults, that means less lingering soreness, faster recovery between days of movement, and an overall greater ability to stay active without being sidelined by pain. Almonds also provide healthy monounsaturated fats, the same type found in olive oil, which support cardiovascular health and stable energy release. The heart and blood vessels are critical partners to muscle and nerve health, since they deliver the oxygen and nutrients needed for proper contraction and signaling. Studies have shown that including almonds as part of a balanced diet can improve lipid profiles, lowering LDL cholesterol and supporting healthier circulation. Better circulation means more oxygen delivered to your muscles when you need them, whether that's getting up from a chair or keeping your balance while walking on uneven ground. What makes almonds especially powerful is how easy they are to integrate into daily meals. A simple handful, about 20 to 25 almonds, can be added to breakfast, tossed into a salad, or eaten with Greek yogurt. When paired with a protein-rich food, this combination not only delivers the building blocks of muscle repair but also the micronutrients that fine-tune how those muscles fire and recover. This pairing is important because protein alone is not enough. Muscles also need the spark and the shield, magnesium and vitamin E, to perform consistently. For those who have trouble chewing, there are still options. Unsweetened almond butter, almond flour in baking, or almonds soaked overnight to soften them can provide the same nutrient profile in easier-to-digest forms. The goal is not to overwhelm the diet with large amounts, but to use almonds strategically as part of meals that already include quality protein. In this way, almonds act less like a snack food and more like a nutrient amplifier, taking the protein you eat and making sure your muscles and nerves can use it effectively. When we zoom out and look at the big picture, almonds aren't a magic bullet, but they are one of the simplest, most accessible foods that align directly with the needs of aging muscles and nerves. Regular intake supplies the critical minerals and antioxidants that help your body perform the fundamental acts of living with more energy and steadiness. And over time, this small daily habit can make the difference between struggling with fatigue and imbalance versus moving through life with confidence and resilience. When we think about balance, most of us immediately picture strong legs or a stable core. But what often goes unnoticed is how much balance depends on our vision. The eyes feed constant information to the brain about the surface beneath us, the distance to the next step, and the orientation of our body in space. If that visual input becomes fuzzy or slow, the entire system of balance is compromised. This is where pistachios come into play in a surprisingly powerful way. Unlike many other nuts, pistachios are uniquely rich in two carotenoids called lutein and zeaxanthin. These compounds accumulate in the retina, particularly in the macula, the region responsible for detailed central vision. They act almost like internal sunglasses, filtering harmful blue light and supporting the clarity of visual processing. Better vision means more accurate input to the balance system, and that translates directly into fewer stumbles and greater steadiness when walking. Beyond eye health, pistachios also deliver a meaningful dose of potassium, a mineral that plays a central role in nerve conduction and muscle contraction. Every time a nerve fires, sodium and potassium trade places across the cell membrane, creating the electrical charge that allows signals to move. Without adequate potassium, that signaling can slow, leading to fatigue, sluggish reflexes, or even cramping. When you combine potassium with the plant protein found in pistachios, you have a food that not only helps maintain visual clarity, but also supports the muscular responses needed to act on what your eyes are seeing. This is critical for real-world balance, where a small delay between seeing a curb and lifting your foot can mean the difference between a smooth step and a fall. Pistachios also stand out because they contain more protein per ounce than most other nuts. For older adults working to overcome anabolic resistance, every gram of protein counts toward reaching that 25 to 30 grams per meal threshold. A 1-ounce serving of pistachios, roughly 49 nuts if you buy them shelled, contributes around 6 grams of protein. While that's not enough on its own, when combined with foods like Greek yogurt, chicken, lentils, or tofu, it helps push the total into the optimal range for muscle repair and growth. And because pistachios are lower in fat compared to some other nuts, they deliver this protein and carotenoid package with fewer calories, making them a versatile addition without overwhelming energy intake. One of the simplest ways to use pistachios is as a companion food rather than a standalone snack. For example, adding a handful of pistachios to a bowl of unsweetened yogurt with berries creates a synergy: protein for muscle synthesis, carotenoids for vision, polyphenols for recovery, and potassium for nerve signaling, all in one meal. Choosing pistachios in the shell has an added benefit: the process of shelling naturally slows eating, making it easier to stay mindful about portion size. This is important because, like all nuts, pistachios are calorie-dense, and moderation ensures they support health rather than add excess. The bigger picture here is that pistachios address a unique part of the muscle and balance story that many people overlook: the vision balance loop. Strong muscles matter, but they rely on clear instructions from the eyes and the brain. By nourishing the retina with lutein and zeaxanthin, pistachios help ensure that those instructions are sharp and reliable. By providing potassium and protein, they support the muscle's ability to respond to those signals quickly and effectively. Over time, this means steadier steps, more confidence on uneven ground, and a reduced risk of falls. And when combined with other nutrient-rich foods, pistachios become more than just a tasty snack. They become a daily investment in clarity, coordination, and independence. When we talk about weakness and slower recovery with age, one of the silent drivers behind it is something called low-grade chronic inflammation. It's not the kind of inflammation you feel when you sprain an ankle where there's swelling and redness. This type is subtle, simmering in the background, and it gradually interferes with how well muscles repair, how efficiently blood vessels deliver nutrients, and how much energy we feel day to day. One of the simplest food-based tools we have to calm that background fire is the walnut. Walnuts are uniquely rich in alpha-linolenic acid, or ALA, which is a plant-based omega-3 fatty acid. While our bodies don't convert ALA to the marine omega-3 CES with perfect efficiency, what it does do is contribute directly to lowering inflammatory signaling pathways and supporting vascular health. Both of these actions are critical for older adults who are aiming to restore strength and maintain balance. The vascular piece is important to highlight. Blood vessels are not just tubes, they are living tissue lined with a layer of cells that respond to nutrients, pressure, and chemical signals. With age, these vessels can stiffen or narrow, limiting how much oxygen and fuel can reach working muscles. Walnuts, through their ALA content as well as their polyphenols and other antioxidants, help preserve the flexibility and function of blood vessels. Studies have shown that regular walnut consumption can reduce LDL cholesterol, improve endothelial function, and lower blood pressure. All of these changes mean that more oxygen-rich blood gets delivered where it is needed most, into the muscles that keep you steady on your feet. When circulation improves, so does stamina, and the fatigue that once came quickly begins to retreat. On the inflammation side, ALA and the bioactive compounds in walnuts help shift the balance of signaling molecules in the body toward those that reduce excessive inflammatory responses. In practical terms, this means that after activity, whether it's a walk, a workout, or even just the everyday effort of climbing stairs, the muscles experience less lingering inflammation. Recovery feels smoother, soreness is less intense, and the cycle of getting up and moving again becomes easier. For older adults, that recovery window is crucial. If recovery is too slow or painful, it discourages consistent movement, and inactivity accelerates muscle loss. Walnuts, by softening that inflammatory response, make it more likely that activity becomes repeatable, building momentum over time. The best part about walnuts is how easy they are to fold into a meal. Just an ounce a day, around 12 to 14 halves, is enough to capture these benefits. They can be sprinkled over oatmeal, mixed into a salad, or blended into a smoothie. Pairing walnuts with a protein source like dairy, eggs, or legumes creates a meal that not only feeds muscles the building blocks they need, but also provides the vascular and anti-inflammatory support required to use those building blocks effectively. For those who find whole walnuts difficult to chew, finely chopping or lightly toasting them enhances both texture and digestibility without losing nutritional value. What emerges when you look at walnuts closely is a food that bridges two of the biggest challenges of aging: inflammation and circulation. Weakness and poor balance are not just about the muscles themselves, they're also about whether the environment those muscles live in supports recovery and energy. Walnuts improve that environment. They cool down the unnecessary background inflammation, they keep the pipes open and flexible, and they deliver antioxidants that protect fragile tissues from wear and tear. Over months and years, this small daily addition can shift how you feel and how you move, from fatigue and fragility towards strength, steadiness, and resilience. When we look at the science of maintaining strength and balance past the age of 55, one theme comes up again and again: consistency beats intensity. It's not about complicated diets or extreme routines. It's about small daily patterns that over time add up to profound changes in energy, stability, and resilience. That's where a simple 3-nut protocol can play a powerful role. The idea is straightforward: strategically include almonds, pistachios, and walnuts into meals in a way that supports protein thresholds, balances calories, and amplifies recovery. Done correctly, this becomes less of a diet trick and more of a reliable daily ritual that your body comes to depend on. Let's start with protein. After age 50, the body's response to protein weakens due to anabolic resistance, meaning a small amount of protein at a meal won't trigger the same muscle-building signals it once did. The evidence suggests that older adults need about 25 to 30 grams of high-quality protein at each meal to properly stimulate muscle repair and growth. That might come from eggs, yogurt, chicken, beans, or fish. But here's the key: protein doesn't work alone. It needs micronutrients, healthy fats, and antioxidants to optimize how those amino acids are used. That's where the three-nut protocol fits in. By pairing these nuts with protein-centered meals, you make each meal more complete, turning it into both fuel and medicine. Practically, this looks like measured portions. For almonds, around 20 to 25 pieces, or about 1 ounce, gives a meaningful dose of magnesium and vitamin E without overwhelming calories. Pistachios, also about an ounce, add lutein, zeaxanthin, potassium, and a protein boost of around 6 grams. Walnuts, at 12 to 14 halves, deliver anti-inflammatory omega-3s and polyphenols. If you combined all three at full portions in one sitting, you'd be taking in close to 500 calories, which for most people is too much on top of a regular meal. The smarter approach is to spread them out, rotate them through different meals, or choose one or two types at a time. For example, imagine breakfast built around Greek yogurt and berries. Adding almonds here supplies magnesium to support muscle firing and vitamin E to protect recovery. At lunch, you might have lentil soup or a chicken salad, and tossing in a handful of pistachios gives both extra protein and eye-nourishing carotenoids to support the vision balance loop. Dinner could be grilled salmon with vegetables, finished with a sprinkle of walnuts over a side of greens, layering in omega-3s to dampen inflammation and support circulation. By the end of the day, you've crossed all the bases: protein threshold, muscle nerve support, visual clarity, and vascular resilience, all without going overboard on calories. The real beauty of this protocol is how flexible it is. If chewing whole nuts is difficult, almond or walnut butter works just as well. If you prefer plant-based eating, nuts pair beautifully with legumes, quinoa, or tofu to hit that protein target. And because each portion is pre-measurable, just 1 ounce, you can easily pre-pack servings in small containers to avoid grazing straight from the bag, which is where excess calories usually creep in. When done daily, this protocol builds a rhythm. Each meal becomes a training session for your muscles and nervous system, delivering exactly what they need to maintain strength, stability, and energy. It's not glamorous, and it doesn't require perfection, but the cumulative effect is powerful. Over weeks and months, this small structure, protein plus a targeted nut, creates a foundation that keeps you moving, keeps you steady, and keeps you independent. When we talk about adding nuts into a daily routine, it's important to also talk about safety and real-world adjustments, because no recommendation is one size fits all. For some people, allergies are an obvious limitation. If you have a tree nut allergy, the last thing you want to do is add almonds, pistachios, or walnuts. But that doesn't mean you're out of options. Seeds like pumpkin, sunflower, and flax can provide many of the same minerals, healthy fats, and protein. Pumpkin seeds are especially rich in magnesium, sunflower seeds carry vitamin E, and flax seeds bring ALA omega-3s, so the nutritional goals are still achievable with smart swaps. The principle remains the same: pair a concentrated source of protein with these nutrient-dense foods to support muscle, nerves, and balance. Another consideration is dental health. For many over the age of 55, chewing hard nuts can be uncomfortable or even risky for dental work. The workaround is simple: soak almonds overnight to soften them, blend walnuts into a smoothie, or use unsweetened nut butters, spread over whole grain toast, or added to oatmeal. The nutrient profile is preserved, but the texture becomes much easier to manage. The key is to avoid versions that are highly sweetened or salted, since those can cancel out the health benefits. Sodium and potassium balance also deserves attention. Some nut varieties are heavily salted, and for anyone managing high blood pressure or heart issues, excess sodium can be problematic. Choosing unsalted or lightly salted nuts is the safest option. On the other side of the equation, nuts like pistachios contribute meaningful amounts of potassium, which helps regulate nerve firing, blood pressure, and fluid balance. For most adults, that's a net benefit. But for people with kidney disease, or who take certain medications, potassium intake may need to be monitored. This is why it's always smart to coordinate with your healthcare provider when making significant dietary changes, even something as simple as adding a few ounces of nuts each day. There's also an optional boost that's worth mentioning. The Brazil nut. Just 1 or 2 of these a day provides selenium, a trace mineral that plays a powerful role in antioxidant defense and thyroid function. The thyroid is deeply tied to metabolism and energy, and selenium helps keep it working properly. But this is one place where more is not better. Just 7 or 8 Brazil nuts can exceed the safe upper limit of selenium for the day, and chronic overconsumption can lead to toxicity. So if you choose to use this micro boost, keep it to a single nut or 2 a day and no more. Nutrition is half the equation. The other half is movement. And here is where 2 10-minute strength snacks per day can transform the effect of this nutrition strategy. These don't have to be long workouts. Simple chair sit-to-stands, wall push-ups, or step-ups done for 10 minutes in the morning and again in the evening provide the mechanical signal your muscles need to respond to the nutrition you're giving them. Think of it as turning the ignition key after filling your tank with fuel. Without that ignition, the nutrients aren't used as efficiently. But with it, the protein, minerals, and omega-3s are directed right into building stronger fibers, faster reflexes, and better balance. When you bring all these details together, safe swaps for allergies or dental concerns, mindful attention to sodium and potassium, careful use of selenium from Brazil nuts, and the addition of 2 short strength sessions each day, you create a system that is both powerful and sustainable. It respects individual differences while keeping the focus on what really matters, fueling and activating the body in ways that make daily living stronger, steadier, and more independent. Momentum loves simplicity. For the next 30 days, anchor every meal with real protein, then add the 3-nut function, almonds for the muscle nerve spark, pistachios for the vision balance loop, walnuts for the anti-inflammatory push. Keep portions honest, practice 2 10-minute strength snacks a day, and watch what changes. Standing up feels lighter, steps feel surer, and your energy recovers faster. You're not chasing youth, you're building capacity. If this helped, share it with someone who needs steadier legs and a steadier life. And in the comments, tell me which nut you're starting with today, and what strength goal you're aiming for this week. Let's build it together.